Hello and welcome to the Property Management Show. I'm your host, Alex Osenenko. My day job is the CEO of 4.5, a marketing company that works exclusively with fee-based property management companies. I spent the last 7 years of my life helping property management companies become more successful by improving sales, marketing, and operational efficiency. On this show, we'll deconstruct success into its key components and invite subject matter experts to help you improve every facet of your business. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show. Hey guys, I have a great honor today to welcome someone really special to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jason Goldberg. He is a life coach, international best-selling author, speaker, and just a very inspirational, good human being. Jason, how are you?
I am doing incredible, Alex. Thank you so much for having me on the show, dude.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. So I have your book here, Prison Break, on my desk, and we don't have a visual for this show, but I will be going through the book and asking you a few questions. But just let me set the stage here. So, I'll use our time today to get some deep wisdom from Jason, and in a fun and kind of non-pressure environment, so to speak, in conversation, but I also have a little bit of a selfish purpose here. And here's my purpose, Jason. For the last 6 months or so, I've been I've been looking for a business and potentially a personal coach to help me and my team elevate to the next level. And we've been kind of back and forth on this. I really have never done a coach interview, so I'm hoping to use this as kind of a personal coach interview, a discovery mission, a path. So some of the business owners that are in my shoes right now, they're looking to kind of continue growing, and they need inspirational leadership from a coach or someone like that. Hopefully this will be a helpful tool for them to know how to talk to prospective coaches. How does that sound, Jason?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the only thing that I care about doing in life, whether I'm being paid for it or it's free, is being of service, man. So we are going to do everything possible to just create an intense and massive and wonderful service for you and your listeners.
Hey, that's awesome. So yeah, speaking of service, that's kind of, I'm defining that as a kind of purpose of life almost, is being of service. Is just such an immense satisfaction when you serve somebody and not yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and the thing is that serving others is the most selfish thing we can ever do in the world. So anybody that tells you they serve out of the goodness of their heart, they're lying. I mean, we can't help but feel good about ourselves when we help others. And that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with the egoic side of contribution. If you can contribute and have a ripple effect in making the world even 5% better, and that makes you feel good in the process, that's incredible. That's the best universal math equation in the world.
Love it. Okay, so the way I have the interview laid out, I have like pages of notes and such, so you guys hear me shuffling through my stuff. Don't mind. I hope you don't mind that. And I have a book as well. So I have a few questions prepared for you personally. Like, I really wanted to know the answers to these, and we can explore the answers. They don't need to be right or wrong. They just need to be your answers. I'm looking to get some wisdom out of what your thought process is, and also then we get in the book and ask some concepts that I feel will help property management entrepreneurs tremendously, and any kind of entrepreneurs, to be honest with you. And I have some rapid fire questions. I just want to learn more about Jason. So I have like rapid fire questions that I'll squeeze here and there, that basically a quick 15-second yes or no. Is that cool?
Yeah, it all sounds incredible. I love the creativity you've already put into this, man. So we're going to have fun.
Hey, man, I respect your time, and I want to make the most out of it. So let's go with the first question. All right. So it's, you've coached a lot of people. You have this element of knowledge that you've looked inside people's brains in terms of like their problems, difficulties, and you were able to elevate and solve them. But I really want to know, how do you help business owners specifically, Jason, to find what they want? It seems to be like an evasive thing. It's very hard. Like, I don't even know what I want. What do I want? I don't know. How do you help people do that?
Yeah, I love that. Well, especially for business owners, it's funny, trying to answer the question, what you want, it becomes like this intellectual exercise, right? It becomes one more thing to do on the to-do list. And one of the things that's been my biggest work in the world, and if you watch any videos by me, or you talk to me, or you hear me speak, I talk fast, I think fast, I move fast, like I'm a fast person. And one of the biggest transformations in my life was to slow the hell down. And it doesn't mean slow down like you don't still work hard and you don't still hustle and you don't still do a lot of stuff. I still do a lot of stuff. But what I do differently now is that I don't allow the outside chaos of the world to impact the inside chaos of my mind. And so when you ask a question like, what do I want? If you're trying to answer it from the headspace of, I better figure this out, I got to figure out my purpose, I got to figure out my passion, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to be screwed, or anything that's pressure filled and heavy and serious, it's just not going to come. It doesn't come. But when you settle, when you slow down your thought process, and the way mentally I like to visualize it, and I'm closing my eyes now to visualize it, and I would invite you and anybody listening to do the same thing, even if it feels kind of woo woo and over the top.
I'm game. Let's do it.
Cool. So picture a snow globe, right? Like a snow globe. It has like a base and it has the glass and it has like a little, little people or a little something inside, and then it has all this, fake snow and liquid. And when you shake up the snow globe, for us looking from the outside in, it's beautiful. There's, white snow flying everywhere, and it's beautiful, and it's kind of all in flow and it's moving. But if you think about that from the inside looking out, if you were inside that snow globe, you would be freaking the hell out because you can't see a foot in front of you. There's snow flurrying everywhere. All you want is for the snow to slow down. And what we're doing is we're in this place of being inside the snow globe. The snow is going crazy, which is really our thoughts and all of our to-dos and all the things we think we need to do. And in that place, we're trying to answer the question, what is it that I really want? No. You can't see any possibilities to even begin to answer the question of what I want until things start settling. And with a snow globe, it's such a beautiful design, and it's the way our mind works naturally without us doing anything, is that the way to calm down a snow globe and to have all the snow calm back down to the surface is to do what, Alex? How would you have a snow globe have all the snow go back to the surface?
Well, slowing down is one thing. Meditation, that was one of my rapid fire questions. Do you meditate? And I didn't really find that in your book specifically, but you talked about closing your eyes and kind of letting the creativity flow and things like that, relaxation techniques. But I guess slowing down is the answer. But how do you do it?
Right. So in that example of the snow globe, the way that you have the snow settle down is you put the damn snow globe down and you step away. Right? There's nothing you have to do. If you put the snow globe down, the natural state of the snow globe when it's not being agitated and shooken up is to be calm. And once everything is calm, and once the snow settles back down to the ground, now you're back to being inside of this big glass globe where you can see as far as you want. You can look out in every direction and see all these possibilities. So what I advise people to do when they're saying, what do I want, is not to try to answer the question from a place of franticness and chaoticness, but to really look inside, to allow yourself to just settle, sit in your chair, get comfortable, allow your body to really kind of get weighted in the chair. Sure, you can meditate, you can do, and we can talk more about meditation because I do have a meditation practice. But once you really settle in, then we can start using the tools to figure out what it is you want. But you have to be looking at it through a different lens than most of us typically look through it when we're trying to answer that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But you have to be purposeful in terms of looking for that answer, right? It doesn't, because putting things down sounds like can potentially be ignored, because I haven't really deeply looked into that question necessarily, from my own point of view, and it seems like I was I'm walking by the globe and not really paying attention.
Yeah, well, you think you're walking by the globe, but if you have a lot going on and you're a business owner like many business owners are, including myself, listen, I'm not the guru. So it's funny when you talk about extracting wisdom from me, anything I know is from screwing up. It's not because I'm better than anybody else, and it's things that I still experience. So you may think you're walking by the snow globe, but at any given time when there's kind of franticness and you feel that kind of tightness in your chest, or you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get it all done? Or, oh my idiot employee, or this idiot tenant, or this idiot whatever, these people outside of you that if they would just do things a little more like you, things would be better. We all have that, that thought and that feeling sometimes. When that happens, we're in this chaotic mind space. And so it's really important for us to slow down. And once you do that, once you slow down, there's a lot of ways to figure out what it is you want, and they're completely unique and tailored to each person who would need it. So, you may sit down and ask yourself, my favorite things to do, and I've done this so many times in the course of my own business and also with other business owners, is to sit down and ask, what would your ideal look like, right? If you could wave a magic wand, what would your ideal day look like? And I mean literally, like, from waking up in the morning to what your morning routine is, to how much time you spend with your family, to the time that you have for exercise or reading or any other morning rituals, to the time you spend with certain members in your team, developing them, developing yourself, to the time you're out in the world talking about your business and your services and seeing how you can be of deeper service, to the time that you go home and what kinds of meals you're eating and what time you're going to bed, really mapping out what that day looks like. And it's a very average day. This is not like some amazing day, just what an average day would look like. And while that's a great first exercise, the real juice, the real benefit, the real thing that transforms business owners is to look at something like that and ask themselves, who would I need to be to have that be my average day? Who would I need to be? What parts of me from the inside out would I need to cultivate? Would I need to choose to call upon inside myself to make that happen? Is it more courage? Is it more creativity? Is it more consciousness? Is it more compassion? Is it more empathy? Is it more space? Is it more presence? Everybody knows what it is that's holding them back from being where they are now and being where they want to be. That's something that everybody knows. They just don't typically give themselves enough time and space to see that for themselves.
Make very good points. One of the most influential people in my life, called Albert Oaten, he used to be a VP at a company I worked for. He was amazing at this one concept, which is, he always asked, what does success look like in just about everything? And instead of kind of engineering things as they go, engineering relationship, engineering, business deals, whatever, he actually visualized, and he helped me learn that practice, visualize what does success look like, and then work backwards to achieve that particular, state of success for this particular issue and case. Does that sound something similar? Like you plan your day, you visualize your ideal day, you write it down, and then you kind of strive towards it.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's kind of doing. But there's two parts to any level of success in my mind, and it's the being and the doing. And we do ourselves a disservice when we focus only on the doing, right? I was talking to a Fortune 100 company about coming in to speak for their people, and they do a lot of work with small businesses. They're an enormous company, and so they wanted to come in at one of their small business conferences, and they said, yeah, we were thinking about we would have, the first half of the day would be people who are coming in and talking about strategies and practices for growing your business and social media and for hiring talent and for talent retention, all these more strategic, the doing in my definition, the doing, or the strategy, the practices. And then we want to have you come in the afternoon and kind of talk about self-leadership and the whole prison break thing and all this. And I said, I think that's awesome. And I have the perfect name for my session. And they said, okay, what would it be? I said, the name of my session would be Why What You Learned the First Half of the Day Will Never Work for You. And she said, well, no, we don't want to do that, because now we're saying that stuff was worthless. And I say, no, it's not worthless. But if you don't focus on who you're being in the moment, if you don't focus on your own level of commitment, your own level of sincerity, your own level of calmness, your own level of creativity, your own level of connection with other people, if you don't focus on that stuff first, the best strategies in the world will do nothing to grow your business. And even if they do grow your business, it will be done with such force and such heaviness and such stress that you'll never enjoy it, and you'll just resent your own success.
Fair enough. Okay, so I think we've gotten that that point pretty well covered. Now, let me ask you this the rapid fire question I have. It's
okay.
Kind of silly. How often do you get your hair cut?
Oh God, man, I wish it was more often. It's usually every 2 to 3 weeks. But here's my secret weapon. My wife will like trim up the back of my neck, if it starts getting a little hairy in the Hendersons, and she'll also trim up my hard part. So anybody who goes and looks me up or watches my videos, you'll see I literally have a shaved part in my head, and so my wife will kind of touch that up in between. But usually it's 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, man, because you always look sharp in your Facebook lives, and I imagine you travel a lot. So I'm like, and I do travel a lot as well. And is it kind of normal for me? I feel kind of bad between haircuts. I don't know. I don't have I'm between haircuts right now, and I don't feel great.
Well, it's funny you say that. You said it's silly, but it's really not that silly. So a dear friend of mine, a guy named Sean Stevenson, who, if you haven't heard of him, look him up. He's incredible. Just has amazing viral videos, and he's spoken on stage with Dalai Lama and Tony Robbins, and he's a dear friend of mine. And he has this practice that he calls a when life works list, right? So it's a list when life works. And he has a list of like 14, 15, 20 things on it that when he's doing those things, his life just works. And so I would invite everybody to sit down and ask themselves, when your life is working, what kinds of things are you doing, or what kinds of things are going on in your world, or what kinds of things are you practicing on a regular basis? And the great thing is you can have 20 things in the list, but as long as you are doing like 2 or 3 or 4 of those in any given day, your life just works. And so it's funny that you say that, because one of the things on my When Life Works list is to have a fresh haircut. So I know that when I have a fresh haircut, my life seems to work better.
Isn't that interesting? When life works, I'm just writing this down. When life works list.
Yeah.
That is pretty interesting stuff. Okay, that's nothing that I do every day. I just kind of blunder through it and do my best to help everyone around me and not go insane. Okay, so haircut. I'm gonna go ahead and go into something more in depth, and this is. This is my personal. I'm going to be really curious on how you're going to address this and what you're going to teach here. So, as business owners, we need to tell good stories. I mean, it's podcasting, it's your blogs, it's just when you talk to associates and employees, you gotta know how to be a good storyteller. So, you personally, okay, Jason, you go out on Facebook Live sessions, these rants or sessions, whatever, and then you actually. You actually surprise me with the depth of these everyday life situations that you convert into kind of these life lessons, so to speak, and how to kind of shift your mind to perceive life differently and more, and kind of get lessons out of it, get learning out of it. So, I personally read when I was about 17 or 18 years old. I used to be a pretty good storyteller. It was just a natural thing for me. And then I read Dale Carnegie's, How to Influence People. Somebody gave it for my birthday. It transformed my life. It made me who I am today. However, I thought I'm not realizing this, I'll overcorrect it. And I stopped being interesting. I was looking for other people to be interesting. And I still am. How do you practice storytelling? Well, give me some wisdom here.
Yeah, I love that you picked up on that, and storytelling is one of my favorite things in the world. I think it is one of the things that business owners, especially in this age where social media has completely removed all geographic barriers and honestly, connection, right? Connection to people, intimacy with people is the new currency. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care if it's property management or a yogurt shop. The way to really connect with people, your real currency in the world right now is not your advertising budget, and it's not how wide your reach is physically, proximity wise in your market, or how you've dominated your local market. It's about how you can really, truly, intimately connect to people online. And so storytelling has been a huge part of that for me, and it's something that I think all entrepreneurs could do well to learn, whether they're going for investment money or they're just trying to share their message with the world. And so for me, it's funny you say that, because for me, it's really like I am on the lookout constantly for how little completely unrelated or seemingly unrelated instances that happen in my life are actually indicative, are actually clues that are pointing me to some place where I need to grow. And so when I can find that for myself, then I know that it's not only me. Like, I'm not special in that sense. Anything that I'm struggling with, there are probably tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people that are struggling with the same thing. So we can be really intentional about looking through our day, getting ready to put together a course that I'm going to be calling Nothing to Something. And it's really about creating content, like long-term content, social media and for storytelling that just comes from everyday stuff, that you don't have to be some master storyteller. You don't have to be Tony Robbins. You don't have to go to a special school to learn this stuff. That if we can really just be intentional and say, this is what's happened to me today. Where's the lesson? Like, where's the takeaway in the story? And if you even a small nugget, we have this belief that everything we share with the world has to be revolutionary. It doesn't. There's too much pressure in that. If you tell a story that is evolutionary, right? If I believe one thing and then after I talk to you, I have my belief shifted by even 1%, that is evolutionary. That helps me to evolve. And that's far more easy basis and trying to share the greatest story in the world that's going to revolutionize everything that everybody's ever thought. Screw that. Like, slow down, see where they're people's beliefs or consciousness or joy or whatever by 5%, and you have more customers than you know what to do with. So there's another rant for you. There was a rant. Hey, Alex, you there?
Sorry, I had myself on mute. I
Oh,
feel
no.
I feel like we have customers who can't get away from a perception of perfection. Like if we ask them to film videos and help them get their story out, they don't feel comfortable. They feel very very kind of a even it's like I've been in business for 10 years. I know all this stuff, but I just can't deliver. How do you convince? What do you how do we get better at helping people go beyond this barrier?
Yeah, I love that question, and it's so simple. And believe me, it's something that I struggled with in the beginning. And speaking is the number one fear. Public speaking is the number one fear of of everybody in the world. And as much as I love performing, and I had kind of a music background, and so I love being on stage, it didn't mean that I didn't get nervous. Hell, I get nervous before every time I go on stage or every time I do a video. It's just a natural human experience. I just know now that it's pointing me towards something that I really care about, and that's why I'm feeling that nervous, anxious energy. But I think the key to overcome that, it's so simple. It's the smallest, tiniest, most minute, seemingly insignificant mind shift. And that's why I said the being has to come before the doing. I can give you tons of things about, stand in the mirror and stand in a power pose and record yourself pretending like you're talking to a friend, and like all these strategies and practices can work fine. But the being is what's really important. And so the shift that I'll tell you, that I'll share with you, and that I'll invite everybody listening to consider, they feel like this sense of perfectionism or they're resistant to be on camera, is that you need to shift from a place of ego to a place of service. It's that simple, to go from a place of ego to a place of service. Because if you tell me I'm afraid to be on camera, I'm afraid to share my message, and I tell you, Alex, is a young woman is going to be watching this, the only person that's going to be watching this, and she has 2 weeks to live, and she has terminal cancer, and all she wants to do is see somebody that really enjoys sharing something they care about on camera. She doesn't care about the content. She's not a business owner. She's not going to buy anything from you. She just really, just for a few minutes, wants to feel some sense of relief by watching somebody else really enjoy what they're doing in life. Can you please help her with that? And in that moment, you're like, oh God, I mean, yeah, that's all she wants. She just wants to see somebody on video sharing what they care about for a couple. Yeah, I mean, of course. Why wouldn't I do that to help somebody who's going to die in 2 weeks? And it's right there. That's that shift from it's all about me to it's all about them. And as soon as we make that small shift from ego to service, all that resistance can melt away, and we can just show up and allow whatever shows up to show up.
Man, that's that itself. I could just press pause and go and talk to my team, because we do have this issue, and I think it's quite incredible to put in this perspective. To be honest with you, I've never thought about it. Ego, it is you're afraid to be judged, but it comes down to yourself, be caring too much about your own self rather than giving out information into the world and helping others. This is
Absolutely.
Man, this is fantastic. So rapid fire question.
Yeah.
If you own a Chinese restaurant, okay, and a competitor next door, literally next door, lowers their prices by 30%, she wants to squeeze you out, what is your move, Jason?
Cool. So if I had a Chinese restaurant and a competitor next door decided to lower their prices, that's actually awesome, right? Because now they've created the ability for me to really create a distinction of my restaurant over theirs. So I don't want to compete on price. Even if I was able to do that successfully, it's not sustainable. And you guys all know that the race to the bottom is not something that's sustainable. You become a commodity, and who really invests in a commodity? So what I want to do is I want to up the service level, and I want to up the experience level, and I want to have people talking about my restaurant so much that these people next door could be giving away the food for free, and people still aren't going to go there. So there are tons of different ways I could do that, and the biggest thing to do is to make sure you're bringing creativity to this exercise, right? You can look at other companies and see what they've done to stand out, but the key is to really see, how can I create an experience? And the first thing that came to mind when you asked the question is that I want to maybe create some level of exclusivity. Right? I want people to really feel special when they come in my restaurant. I don't want them to necessarily think they can just stop by whenever they want and get a meal. If I'm really trying to position myself as a premier, premium type of restaurant. So what I may do right away is remove half of the seats from my restaurant. And that sounds ridiculous, right? Like, why would I take away that much revenue or the
Right.
potential for that much revenue? But as soon as I remove half the seats, now I've made it 50% more difficult for people to get a seat in my amazing restaurant. And the people that do get in are going to be so grateful they got in that then when I deliver, because you got to deliver, you can't have a crap product or a crap service. Let's assume you have an incredible product, an incredible service that people that work there treat these people like they are family and create an experience they will never forget. If you do that and create exclusivity by limiting the number of seats there, and you can tell people every day, I'm sorry, we can't take you for another 3 days because we're booked out, we're sold out for the next 3 days. Word will get around how amazing you are. You can start adding back in 5 to 10 seats a week, and before you know it, you're selling out with a full restaurant, and you never had to change your prices.
So go for scarcity, make sure you deliver a great product and find creative ways to get the message out and actually deliver.
Absolutely. But the key is you have to have an incredible product or service. These are not strategies or tactics. This is making it easy for people to experience just how good you are. And then there's a quote by Steve Martin when they interviewed Steve Martin at one point and asked him how he got so successful. And he said that he basically did the work and he got so good that people could not ignore him. And that's what we want to do in our businesses. We want to get so good that people can't ignore us.
Very, very, very good. Okay, shifting gears to more of a book-related questions because there's like 3 concepts I wanted to explore with you a little bit more that I feel will be very helpful for our audience and myself.
Awesome.
One of them is gamification, and basically the question here, I really like that section. I reread it about 3 times just to make sure I got the concepts and stuff. How does it help, and in how to do it for business owners? We run serious businesses, let's call it property management shop. They have tenants that want to get good places to live. They have owners who need their money and manage. How do you introduce gamification and make that work more fun?
I love that. Yeah. And it is so funny you said that you run a serious business. And so that would be, if I were your coach, the first thing I would do is question, what is a serious business, and prove to me that the work you do is serious. And I think you'd have a hard time doing that because unless somebody dies because of something that happens with property management, which I'm sure could happen in extreme examples, there aren't many businesses on this planet that are serious. And it's our belief that they're serious that has us look through the lens of seriousness. And when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. So if you're looking through the lens of everything being serious, then everything is going to seem serious. And then it's much more difficult to implement things like gamification. So the first thing to do is really allow yourself, again, to relax and to see the possibilities for how you could be having fun. It's like, you don't have to do anything. And I go through this too. I went through this. I did an exercise just with myself last week where I was kind of, not feeling, I had some stuff I had to do and I was feeling like, oh God, I don't want to do that. That's boring. And I'm making lists and like seeing like there are different strategies and techniques that I'll walk people through and myself through to kind of get into more of a self-leader place. And I'm making this whole list out, doing this one exercise. And then I realized at the end, like, I don't have to do any of this. I could stop all this and go get a job at Starbucks. So I can either have fun with what I'm doing. I can either find the enjoyment. I can find the fun. I can find the possibilities, or I need to just stop complaining and go get a job somewhere else. And it's not to beat myself up or threaten myself or make myself feel dumb, but it's really a sense of freedom and empowerment to say, wow, I'm choosing to do these things, and I have the ability as one of the most creative beings that has ever existed on the planet. There's no other being that we know of on this planet or any other planet that has the level of creativity and imagination and intelligence that we have as human beings. If I can bring some more of that to what I'm working on, everything I'm doing can be more fun. So it's really about just finding the fun early on. And gamification comes into that because we love games. Like, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews. And if you tell a kid, go clean your room, they are going to pout and scream and cry. But all of a sudden, when picking up your clothes becomes a basketball game to throw the clothes in the hamper, they're a lot more likely to want to have fun and do it with you. All of us love games from the time we're kids. We just stopped playing games because somehow it's been conditioned in us that the workplace is serious and it's not a place for games. Or some people get into a thing where they say, we bring Nerf guns into the office and that makes us fun. And that's great. That's fine. But you can play games around your work. So whatever the biggest challenges in your business, and I don't know what it is for you, I'm guessing there's probably things with, in property management with tenant turnover and maybe, the monetary things or them damaging properties or not passing background checks. I'm sure there's all kinds of logistical and legal stuff that comes into that. But if there's a way that you can find a way to create some friendly competition, some games, no matter how absurd it is, you can create games around your biggest challenge and it immediately becomes more fun.
Very interesting. So, by the way, just for full clarification, 4.5, we do marketing for property management companies. We don't necessarily run the properties, although our customers do. So, for them, it's a fitting answer for ourselves as well. We manage people's growth. That is also very serious at the bottom. I mean, we got to deliver, right? We got to deliver, but I'm interested in talking to you more, maybe later times on how to specifically gamify some of the, I don't know, processes, systems, some of the goals we have, or something like that. That's, I haven't spent enough time thinking about it, but when I read that section of your book, it is, and I look back at my career and remember which jobs did I really enjoy, why did I enjoy them. And a lot of it was, when there was a friendly competition, when things were interesting, when, a company was growing, it was always fun environment. When things stagnated, people were serious, it was never fun. It was just dreadful to come to work.
Yeah. See, so you know what that feels like. And the distinction in that chapter is game versus shame. Right. And so we try to motivate ourselves to fix things through shame. Right. We're saying, let's play with this. If you don't mind, if we have a couple minutes,
yeah.
Give me one of the biggest challenges that 4.5 has, and we'll see if we can game it.
So one of the biggest challenges we have is the perceived, let's call it a perceived notion of work. So in other words, if our customers don't see us doing anything, their presumption is we're not doing anything for them. So they will call us up and let's say, we try to get on the phone with them to get to the next appointment, whatever the perfect client profile, whatever the next meeting is supposed to be to drive their marketing. They didn't reply to this and that. And then all of a sudden they call back and says, their accountant says, okay, you paying this $500 a month or $1,000 a month. What are you getting for it? And the business owner right away goes, okay, that is a lot of money. I haven't heard anything. What are they doing? So they would call us up and say, okay, what do you guys do for me? And that's, that becomes, as you grow, becomes quite intense in terms of number of calls you get. That's something that we struggle with. That's one of the things that we have to kind of solve. How do you gamify that?
Yeah, I love that, and so there's a lot that can go into that. There's a lot of that to me seems like what I call a communications issue and an agreements versus expectations issue. So we probably won't have time to dive into the distinction between expectations and co-creations, as I call them. But that would be one thing. But I get this. I get the out of sight, out of mind. I get the not having a physical deliverable, and so sometimes it's hard to justify the cost. And so there's a lot of fun ways that you could gamify the communication aspect of this. So the first thing that popped in my mind is this is what we want to make sure we do. And this is something that I think that almost, I'd say 99%, and that may be exaggerating, but it may not be, 99% of service providers miss an opportunity for one thing. And I'll tell you what it is. Every single correspondence that a client gets from you should raise their level of consciousness. It should raise their spirits. They should see an email from you in their inbox and be happy. And that's something we don't slow down enough to think about. Before we send an email, ask, how is this going to make this person's day 5% better? It doesn't have to be a joke. I mean, it could be humor. It could be, and there are 4 elements to what I believe is the perfect correspondence. And as many of those 4 elements as you can have, the better. And one of those is definitely humor. One of them is value. One of them is possibilities. And one of them is curiosity. And so I don't know that we'll have time to dive into all those, but if you just would slow down before you send an email to a client and say, am I providing some kind of value in this email? Is it humorous? Does it evoke curiosity? Does it give them real value? And does it help them see possibilities? And if it doesn't do any of those, don't send the email. I should get an email from 4.5, and when I see it in my email box, I should say, oh, cool, Alex emailed me. I wonder what he has to say. And so in this example where you're trying to have more, maybe better communication and make them want to see your correspondence, and you also want to make sure that they're aware of what it is you're doing when they're not in front of you, the first thing that popped in my mind is, do you ever get holiday cards or holiday letters from people like friends and family that say, this is what's happened over the past year? Little Johnny won his soccer tournament. Little Lisa started a cupcake business. John's doing great in his business. I started a yoga studio. Like, have you ever gotten those letters before from people?
I have, yes.
Yeah. So that's fun, right? Because it's like a year in review and we get to kind of live vicariously through what's going on there. So what if you guys have, and I don't know your business structure, but like, let's say you have dedicated account managers.
We do.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So what if your dedicated account managers were to send correspondence through that lens? Like, let's tell you what's going on in our world, and let me tell you about the amazing work that we've been doing for you over the past 2 weeks or a month or 3 months or whatever you check in, whatever the correspondence frequency is. But what if you made that into something where there was something enjoyable about them receiving that email, right? They don't just say, hey, just checking in. Checking in is like the worst thing in the world. Don't stop check-ins. Like, if you want to create better relationships with your customers, stop checking in. Nobody forgot about you, and if they forgot about you, that means you're not serving them enough. So stop checking in. Give them actual value when you send an email. So when you send an email, say, listen, here's what we've done over the past 3 weeks for you, and I want to share an article about a new thing that we're researching as a company that I think could be really cool for you guys. Just wanted to share it with you, and if you have any thoughts or any questions, let me know. And as we continue developing this, we'll keep you updated. Like, just give them something of possibility or curiosity or value or humor, and they're never going to question again where that money's going.
Okay, so that's good. Our next breakfast club, we do a weekly breakfast club on Mondays, where we get together and kind of a learn together about a concept or hear a podcast, discuss and stuff like that. So I think that should be our next breakfast club meeting topic, is to figure out how to use this concept to deliver additional value to our existing communications. Because, and part of this, you already addressed my challenge, but our customers have the same challenge. So, the owners and tenants, they don't hear from them until something goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
The tenant needs has a problem. The owner didn't get their check. Very similar to my business is we're service providers where, we do a lot on the background where there's a lot of work, but we don't necessarily have a good ways to communicate what we do and how we do it, and keep our customers abreast of where we are and be preemptive in these situations. What you just said, in putting a system together and really caring about the perception of your customers, being the account manager, having your own portfolio, you should know your people by their first names, right? And
Yep.
caring enough for them to deliver this additional value in every communication will preempt the problems and issues, and I think will reduce them by a significant margin, right? Where you can stop saying the property management is a negative business and everybody, all we get is complaints, and focus on, delivering, the highest customer experience from your competitors. And that's how you can, remove, half the chairs from your restaurant, so to speak, and still pack it and still grow and still make more money. So that I really like that explanation, because we do struggle with this, and no matter how relentless we are, and I think the answer you gave me goes along with it, because our challenge, Jason, a lot of times is to get to the filming appointment. Filming blogs is very important in our projects that we do for our clients. The content sets the foundation for everything else we do. From content, we build ebooks. It helps them convert on Google AdWords. I mean, they get found better and organically. Content is like such an essential piece, foundational piece of our service. And we're having trouble getting people to that stage of filming. Actually, we're going through a specific process, preset meetings, until we're ready for the actual filming, and we sit on Skype just like you and I, and we help them we film them, we direct the whole shoot all at once. But I think the ego versus service answer you gave me before kind of solves this a little bit, or at least helps us add that value to those communications and help to shift their mind. I'm sorry, I'm going on the rant myself, but I'm actually getting a lot out of this conversation.
No, I love that. I think you're so clear. It doesn't sound like a rant at all. I mean, it really sounds like you're clear that service is really the way to go. And one of the core tenets of my business and what I teach service providers also is a concept that I call client astonishment. And client astonishment is great when you're out, and it's something that's not as foreign to people when they talk about, creating clients. I don't talk about finding clients or attracting clients or signing clients. I talk about creating clients. Clients created by you going and being in front of them and actually being of service and transforming some part of their life and business. And this is not just for coaches. This is for anybody, because obviously that's what you're doing. If you have a business, you are trying to transform somebody else's life or business, no matter what you're providing. And so a lot of people understand client astonishment on the front end, to get them in and to provide service and to quote sign them and make them become a client, and then it just goes away. And so what I want to help people focus on more, and what's been hugely beneficial to the companies I've worked with, is to not just focus on client creation, but to focus on what I call client recreation. Right. So for example, for your meeting that you're talking about, where everybody comes together, the breakfast meeting, another and it just tremendously impactful thing you can do to grow your base and to grow your business, especially with your current clients, is to have a small session on client recreation. You have every account manager put, all their clients into a cup, each of them, put their clients into a cup or a glass and pull out one name, and they focus on that day to figure out how they can astonish the hell out of that client, how to do something for them that they would have never seen coming. And when a human being, a creative, which I know you hire and employ very creative and service-minded people, when a creative person really focuses, like I'm pretending I'm holding a piece of paper in my hand right now. When you focus on one name and you really get in tune with, like, this is a human being with a life and a family and a company and struggles and challenges and dreams and fears, and you say, how can I really astonish them today? You will come up with the most incredible ideas, and that person will be your client for life.
Man, this is gold. Property managers, you hear this? This is exactly, my business is based on my customer's business. We have very similar challenges, very similar businesses. That's why I'm comfortable to use in this stage for my own, to solve my own problems, so to speak, or address my own problems, because they're so similar. Because property management business operates in a very similar way. They have property managers who are responsible for a portfolio of clients, and that exactly same concept works really well. I like that. I'm actually going to use it and find out how it works. So that's good. Let's shift gears to a couple of rapid fire questions.
Good, let's do it.
Do you have about another 15, 20 minutes?
I got all the time in the world for you, man.
My man. All right, so question number one. What is the least manly thing you do on a regular basis?
Oh, God, all I do is non-manly things. I don't watch sports. I like fashion. Like, I swear, like, I'm married to a woman, but it's a better question to ask me what's the most manly thing I do. The least manly thing I do is probably going online and shopping for socks. I think you know this about me. I'm a huge sock person. I love just funky, crazy socks. So maybe that's the most or the least manly thing I do.
And socks, interesting. Socks is an interesting. I don't want to get too far on a tangent here, but it's kind of it's a little bit selfish. I mean, hardly people don't really see your socks. I mean, right? I mean, it's just you, right? I mean, what's the concept there? I mean, give me some. I've never really been fascinated with socks. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I love it because I'm into fashion, and I feel like as men, we don't have as many options as women. Women can do a lot of things with accessories and all that stuff, and dudes, we just don't have that. So for me, the socks are cool because I can coordinate socks with shirts or with pocket squares or with ties or just my mood for the day or whatever's going on. It's fun for me, and anytime I do, cross my legs, I can't tell you how many times people on planes have started talking to me because they see my socks because I have my leg crossed, in the seat. And I've had so many conversations come out of that. And it's become something where, again, when we talk about client astonishment, I took the thing that I love, one of the things I love the most, which is socks, and I used that to astonish a client. There was a client of mine who really wanted to be more bold and courageous in her job. She worked in a bank, and she was in a leadership position, and she felt like she wasn't being bold enough and courageous enough in her leadership. And I happened to find a pair of socks. One of the socks said bold and one of the socks said courageous. And she knew that I was a big sock person. So when I bought those socks and surprised and sent them to her, A, she wasn't surprised at all that I did it because it was socks. And she was like, okay, well, that's your thing, of course. B, she was astonished that I thought of her enough to think about her, to find these socks and to send them to her. And then C, it turned into a game. We did gamification because I said, listen, I didn't just buy these socks for you for fun. Now your challenge is you have to wear these socks at least once a week for the next month, and you have to show them to at least 2 people at the office each time you wear them. And so now she had to step into the fun of being bold and courageous by showing off these bright green and orange socks that said bold and courageous on them. And not only did it create more connection with her employees, where they saw her as somebody who was more fun because she had been kind of uptight before, but she immediately felt like she was being more of her bold, courageous self by stepping out of her comfort zone and doing those things.
Interesting. What kind of car do you drive?
I drive a 2016 Kia Optima. It is my second Kia. I friggin' love it.
Yeah, I was going to say, my next question was why, but I guess, is it a transportation or does a car have any other meaning to you?
You know, I've always been a huge fan of cars, and this is the first, like my last car was like a Chrysler 300C, and I was big into Japanese imports when I was growing up and like souping those up. So DSMs, so all Mitsubishi Eclipses and Eagle Talons. I had a 3000 GT VR4, the twin turbo all-wheel drive. Like I was so into that stuff, and it is a thing for me. Like I really like comfort. I love technology, so the Kia has a lot of technology, and it feels good. It's like I'm in the car a lot, and I really enjoy having that comfort level.
Yeah. So are you in your mid to late 30s, so to speak?
I am. Yeah, I'm 36.
Yeah, I'm 37, so I'm the same way. I grew up with the JDM scene. My brother was DSM. He had a DSM shop, and I have posters of 3000 GT VR4. I almost bought it as my car, but I have two kids, so I had to settle for the M3, which is also an incredible car, but it has 4 doors. So I'm totally into cars, so that's what I was going to ask. And that's to me, that's less of a status symbol, although there's some of that. But it's I get in every day. This is for me on my what life works, when life works list. I have to drive a stick shift car that I love, even though it's a 3-mile commute.
Nice. No, I love that, but you're so clear on that, and I love the M3. I've always been a huge fan of the whole M series. Those are amazing cars.
It's just great, yeah. And so, all right, let's get to one more. I have 3 more book questions, but let's get one more and then see where we go from there.
Sure.
I have to at least address this one here about the game-winning shots. You talked about an interview you had for a speaking opportunity, and how instead of kind of focusing on closing the deal, being like super intense and selling the value of Jason, and getting, you just kind of you took this opportunity to kind of shift your mindset. And you talked about being relaxed and working on building a relationship instead of closing the sale on this one phone call. My question is, how do you, like, if you're a professional salesperson, Jason, like you do this every day. I mean, you get a phone call, you got to close the business, you have quota. How do you apply this concept of not every shot is a game-winning shot to a daily sales routine?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's two things that come up for me when you say that. So first and foremost, it's a top-down thing, right? And so the conditioning right now, especially in sales in a lot of industries, and my background before I became an entrepreneur, and I had a few different entrepreneurial endeavors that had nothing to do with speaking or coaching or personal development before I got into it. But I spent almost 15 years in IT and did a lot of work with telecom. And the telecom industry is very, very challenging. It's all a race to the bottom. It's all who can, provide more bandwidth for cheaper prices. And the stress and the pressure they put on their salespeople to learn a complex technology and then to go out and sell something that would be a reoccurring revenue stream that could be in the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars per month, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, millions of dollars over the course of a contract, and they have to close this deal super quickly. I don't understand that. And the reason I say that is because when I first became an entrepreneur, I hated sales. And just so you know, I told you I was traveling. There's a train going by, so I hope it's not too loud. I hated sales when I first got into being an entrepreneur. I despised it. And through doing my own work and kind of, again, slowing down and asking myself, like, well, what's really going on here? Like, what do I really hate? I realized I didn't hate sales. I hated rushing relationships. Okay. I hate, and I didn't say Russian relationships. Russian people are wonderful. I hated rushing relationships. And so I think that's my first answer is that's a top-down issue. And I think that if we had sales leaders, and it's actually, I know it's even above the sales leaders pay grade, if we had people in leadership or C-level or whatever level positions saying our goal is to go out and be of service, to find ways to astonish people every single day, even if it means doing things for them that are not on the PDF sheet of the services and products we provide, we will eventually have all the clients that we need. But instead, what's rewarded is, is the quarterly returns or the monthly returns or the quotas or the conversions or all these things that are great to measure. I'm not saying don't measure. I'm not saying fly by the seat of your pants. It's very important to measure because you got to know what's working and what's not. But my goal is to focus on conversation instead of conversion. Right. And this is actually a distinction that a good friend of mine brought up to me, is conversation over conversion. And the more we can be a deep conversation with people and see how we can really serve them, when we go into the conversation saying, I don't know if I can help you, I have no clue if I can help you, I need to learn so much about you to know if I can help you. That's the way I want to approach it. The I don't know mind instead of the I'm absolutely certain and I have to close you mind. So one side is, it's a conditioning corporate culture thing that I think desperately needs to be changed. But on the other side of it, even if you are in one of those places where there are, expectations and quotas, just by going into conversations with people, with prospects from a more relaxed place, you're more apt to see opportunities to serve. You're more apt to hear what's going on between the words they say. You're more apt to get creative when they say no, to recognize that them saying no is them giving you a huge neon sign of a clue as to what would make it a yes, right? It's to see how the things they're telling you are not going to work are pointing you directly to what they really hoped you would do to make it work. And if you can be in this relaxed, creative place, you may see opportunities that will allow you to close the deal faster, but it's not coming from this place of scarcity where I have to close the deal now, I have to convince them, because that doesn't usually work for client retention or for long-term success anyways.
Very interesting. So my career path, I was a salesperson, software sales. Well, initially worked at Radio Shack and did gadget sales, and then resistor sales, then software sales, and then eventually, as a salesperson, started my company, did all the sales for the first couple of years, and then eventually, now I'm at the CEO level. And the concept that I was never a slick talker. English is my second language. I don't speak that well. I'd speak okay, but enough, right? But the thing is that it's always been about discovery. It's always been about, being so freaking curious that it's just, I am more interested in my customers' challenges than anyone else that they ever going to talk to.
Yes.
And that really was my success. And I was on the top, just to validate this concept. I was one of the top salespeople at every sales job I held. Because of that, there was no secret. There's no slickness. There's nothing. If somebody came in and studied what I did, there was nothing different except that I listened a lot more. And that's where Dale Carnegie's book really, really sunk in for me. And this is what made me who I am. But then again, it messed me up in a way that I'm not as comfortable talking about myself and my story and teaching on stories. I have to be beyond my comfortable, because I feel like I'm not taking interest enough, and I'm instead educating from without knowing all the problems, right off the bat. So I don't know, this sounds maybe a little messed up, but
no, it's great. I love that you're able to validate that, really being curious. I love that you said that. If we went out into the world and we're 5% more Sherlock Holmes and 5% less, salesperson, we'd create a lot more really meaningful business. So I love that you do that. And the sharing your story thing, I get that too. And the way that I've kind of gotten around that for myself is I only ever share my experience of life. There has been nothing that I've said to you during this interview that is right. Right? I don't do right or wrong. I don't do good or bad. I do effective or ineffective, rather. I do productive or unproductive in my own experience. And nobody can argue with my experience of life. They can try it for themselves and it may not work, but I don't need them to agree or disagree with me, believe or not believe in me, trust or not trust in me. I'm just sharing my experience of the world that's worked for me. And I would invite everybody else to try that out for themselves in their own way and see what results they get.
Gotcha. Very interesting. So this has been a great conversation, but I have one more question for you. I have a lot more questions. Maybe we'll do another episode if this one is popular and people like it, but I'm getting a lot out of it, too much, actually.
Awesome.
One more question from Abby. Abby Wasserman is our director of sales. She's an incredible human being, and she loves you with passion. So,
I love her too. She's amazing.
She's good, right? And so she squeezed this question and made me ask you this, and that's like near and dear to her heart and her job. So she says this: oftentimes our clients deal with a client loss. Sometimes it can be a loss of a client with just one property. sometimes a larger client with multiple properties, up to 100 properties sometimes. This is a factor of both business loss and growth, both. What tips do you have for dealing with that cycle of business?
Yeah, I love that. And so all of this to me is a call for more creativity, right? It's such a beautiful thing when we lose a client, because it allows us to step back and to ask ourselves what's really going on here, in a lot of different ways, right? So for example, let's say you lose a client that accounts for a large part of your business. Then it's a chance to come back together as a team and ask ourselves, were we focusing on the right mix of clients, right? Were we putting too much certainty, or too many of our eggs in one basket, right? How can we get more creative about diversifying the types of people that we serve? Is this client even the type of client we need to be serving? Sometimes a client leaves us because we've outgrown them or they've outgrown us. So how can it be a blessing and a gift? What is it that client leaving us is trying to teach us about the way we do our business? See, and this is kind of like the core crux shift of customer service, right? When we think of customer service as the people who take the complaint calls and they're like, oh God, this tenant's on the phone again, or this client's on the phone again. Oh, they're going to say something. They're going to be mad. They're going to be pissed. They're going to complain. If you look at that instead of being a problem and instead see it as a project, that you're getting real-time feedback from the most important people in the world, you're getting real-time feedback from people that actually pay you. You're being paid to get feedback. This is like the most beautiful opening for personal and professional growth in the world. So when you lose a client, it's time to sit down to say, A, if it was a blindsided thing, how did we not see this coming? Were we not in good enough communication with the client? Did we not know what was going on in their world? Was there something that we missed? Was there something we could have communicated better? The second thing is, if a client leaves, I want to have a conversation with them and say, I can absolutely understand that you've chosen to leave, and I'd love for you to give us some feedback for future clients of what we could be doing differently to make sure we're serving them to the highest level, right? And then the third thing is that person leaving you does not make them dead to you. If this was a client you really enjoyed working with and for whatever reason they felt it was in their best interest to change service providers, stay in contact with them. Stay providing value to them. Not to get them back onto your side, not to get them to switch back to you, but just to show them that you do care and you're thinking about them. And if they do move to this new provider and they thought the grass was greener, but something doesn't work out and you're still there providing value, even after they've told you, I'm done, I'm not going to pay you anymore, there's a good chance they could become your client again. So there's three just really quick ways. There's a lot more that can go into that, but just, in the interest of time, we could do a whole nother interview on that. But I think that's really it. It's like, one of my favorite questions in the world that I ask myself and I ask my clients and I have audiences that I speak to, I have them ask this question to themselves, is anytime something happens for you, and I don't believe things happen to us, I believe they happen for us. So anytime something happens for you, ask yourself the question, what is trying to emerge in this moment? Right? What am I being called to step into in this moment based on what happened? So if I lose a client, what am I being called to step into? Am I being called to step into somebody who communicates more effectively, who adds more value, who is more transparent with my team about what's going on, that fosters more open communication if a client is upset about something? What is it that I'm being asked to step into as a leader, as an account manager, as whatever my position is in this moment based on this situation? And when you really tap into that, you can find the greatest opportunity for growth and for business and personal growth inside that question.
Very good. Well, Jason, this was immensely educational for me, and I'll tell you right now, I'll send you an email. Let's schedule a time to talk about your specific coaching, offering system, or how do you approach coaching and stuff like that. I'm really interested to kind of engage on that level. This was a lot. This was as interesting as I expected. To be honest with you, I expected this to be transformational. I didn't expect it to be shallow. But I'm glad that the expectations were met, because you're an upstanding guy, and I was expecting an upstanding performance, and that's it was delivered. So I appreciate it on behalf of the audience and myself. Thank you kindly for your time, Jason, and tell people where they can find you or pick up your stuff.
Absolutely. Well, what I want to do for you, and because you and I have been speaking a lot, and I've been speaking with Abby and with Danny. You have an incredible team there over the past several months. And so, what I'd love to do for you guys, and also for anybody who's a listener and a viewer of the Property Management Show here, is to give you an opportunity to have a free copy of my book Prison Break that you referenced. So I set up a specific webpage just for you guys. If you have, and please don't share this publicly outside of your audience, but just for your audience and on the blog or whatever you post this. If you go to www.thejasongoldberg.com/4.5, FOUR, so spelled out 4.5, you'll see a link to download either a PDF or a Kindle version of the book for free. Or if you're in the US listening to this, you'll see a link to get a free paperback copy of the book as well. So you'll see all that on the website just for you guys, just for your listeners. And Alex, I'll send you the link so you'll have the exact link and everything that you can share. And I hope it's of service to you. And that's really the place where you can follow me and keep up with me.
That is so gracious of you. I appreciate it. I did read the book, and I would say that I had approached with skepticism, as I do with everything else. Open mind, but skeptically open mind.
Yeah.
Right? Self-transformation, self-leadership. There's market full of these the advice, and it's just you got to connect to it. You got to be open-minded and be skeptical like me, but open your mind to it. Give it a shot. See what you can get out of it. I got out a lot. So, Jason, thank you kindly, and we'll talk to you soon. And I will send you that email, and we'll connect and see where we go from there.
Absolutely. My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to you soon.